Hey, Fran fam. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. We made it to the weekend. Thanks for joining me today. I'm your host, Francyne Walker. And also joining us today is Laura Monaco. She is the CEO and head vocal coach for ET Studio Productions and ET Labz, based out of New York. She has coached some of the top names in the business. We're going to get into that. But without further ado, please join me in welcoming Laura to the show. Hey, Laura.
Nice. Thank you for having me today, Francyne. I'm happy to be here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you wanting to be here. Talk a little bit about your background. I read that you were a vocalist at a very young age. Talk a little bit about that and how it led you from that point to here.
Sure. So my dad was a singer, so music has always been a huge influence in my life. Ever since I'm a young child, it's just something I grew up around. My dad listened to a lot of doo-wop music, and he was in doo-wop groups in the streets of the Bronx, and I was very influenced by that. He was always kind of like pursuing your dreams and had a go-getter mindset. So I think it rubbed off on me. So I started at a very young age showing interest in singing and performing. I never was that girl that had fear. I would always raise my hands in the class and say, pick me. And I would get up and sing the same song terribly in school, 4th, 5th grade. I would always just, get up. I think it was A Whole New World, if I can remember correctly. And I just was very exaggerated in my emotions.
Which is a beautiful song.
It's a beautiful song, yes, but I butchered it in 4th and 5th grade. But I was like mega diva. I loved the diva. I don't know why. I just took to it. And I was never afraid to be on stage. And my parents put me in vocal lessons at around 11 years old. And I still go to this day. And I've been going for years now. And the voice has always been something I've been fascinated in, especially the voice in connection with performing. So I think that once I realized that singing can affect people, and in return also heal myself and kind of be therapeutic for me, I was addicted. It was like my drug. I couldn't stop. And every chance I had, I would, sign up for karaoke nights and perform. And then, as I got older, I started working more with various different producers and different styles of music. And, I always loved to write. Poetry was always something, and journaling. I did that at a very young age. And I think that as I got older, I started to realize I can actually make songs, and I think I'm pretty good at it. So I started taking my lyrics and learning how to songwrite and really kind of engage myself in any opportunities that I could to better my songwriting. I still believe to this day that surrounding yourself with people that are just as experienced or more experienced than you is the best way to grow in life.
Yeah.
I was addicted to kind of learning from anyone that I could. And just, even if I learned one thing, it was worth it.
Yeah.
And I started songwriting, from that, and realizing that that was something that I was very passionate about. So songwriting, performing, singing, it's something that I'm still to this day, I can't get enough of it. I can read books and books and books on it. And I'm just fascinated with the vocal instrument in particular.
What a blessing to have a passion that fuels you. You know what I mean? Like you're a student, but you're also a teacher.
Right.
That's a blessing to have something that fuels you like that, and you just want to learn more and more and more, which probably puts you at an advantage, or your students at an advantage, because you're constantly learning. Talk about I know you are the co-owner of ET Studios and ET Labz, but you're also a vocal coach. Talk about some of the people that you have coached along the way and landed them in some pretty high places.
Sure. So I just want to backtrack for a second. I think that I always say that in order to be a great teacher or a great leader, you have to be willing to be a great student.
Yes.
You have to allow yourself to be vulnerable, which is extremely hard. Listen, I struggle with it every day. And I never claim to know it all. If there's something that I don't know, I'll say, you know what, let me tap into my resources and get back to you on that. But the learning never ends. And I do truly believe that is the reason why I stay passionate, because I'm always trying to see what new, what else is coming out there, and what new artist is coming up, and why they're successful. And I try. I'm also a mom. My son is 2.5 years old. So being a mom, I always say the mom entrepreneur thing. Being a mom in all of this is also gives you a whole other set of challenges. But it also gives me a new sense of inspiration too. Once my son was born, I started to say, I'm learning from him. Like, how does this happen? It's crazy how life happens like that.
Yeah.
So I met my husband, who was also in the music business. Long story short, I sang for wedding bands, and there he is. He's still here.
Yes. Couple.
So I sang on the weekends for DJs and wedding bands. When I was living in the Bronx, I worked a few jobs to help pay for my career. And then I was doing my own, recording at night. And then on the weekends, I would sub for various different bands and DJ companies. And through that process, I met my husband, whose father had a DJ company for years, and they were looking for a substitute singer to come in for a wedding one night. And then Joey is my husband. We started talking, and I found out that he was a producer, and I told him I was a singer. We just like really connected and bonded. And it was weird. It's like one of those things where instantly it was like, we are connecting in a spiritual way, in a musical way, in a physical way, in an emotional way. It was just really, I can't say I love my husband. I mean, it was just one of those things that instantly hit us.
Yeah.
And from doing that, I changed my whole entire life. I moved to Staten Island from the Bronx. I left my family, my friends, everything that I ever knew. And I started a brand new life here.
The things we do for love.
That's it. Great. At least it was a healthy choice. I mean,
yeah.
For love, right? And he's brilliant. And I'm not saying it because he's my husband. He is really brilliant. He is a producer, a mixing engineer, mastering engineer. He's an amazing guitarist. And I was really kind of in awe of how passionate he was and how talented he was. And while doing that, I said, wait a minute, this is we can do something with this. And I think it can be something really great. We both have the same passions, and we both have the same kind of mission in life, which is to inspire and be inspired. That's what we feel strongly about.
Sure.
So how can we do this? We started a little home studio in our apartment in Staten Island, and nothing like this existed on Staten Island before. And it started growing and growing and growing and growing. We opened up our existing studio a month before we got married in 2013. Since then, we've been able to, thank God, double and triple in size. We got slowed down a little bit during this recent pandemic, but along the way, we have really met some amazing artists.
Sure.
Some artists I can say, Brielle Von Hugel, who she's literally a world touring artist. I mean, right now there's no touring, but all over the world. She's one of the best vocalists that I've had the opportunity to work with. She was also on American Idol. She was in the top 12 girls. I recently just helped develop and coach an artist through American Idol this past season, Julia Gargano. She made top 7. So she's an artist that is she's super, super, super talented. She started with me as an intern, and I just believed in her talent. I said, I'm going to send you to this audition.
Yeah.
I was also doing scouting for American Idol and America's Got Talent as well. And I sent her the audition. I forced her to go, and she made it to the top 7. So we were able to do. A lot of our songs they're in the millions as far as streams go on Spotify and Apple. We probably have over 300 songs released at this point that we've co-written and produced. So it's great. It's just to me, I just believe in the power of prayer and manifestation, and just if you ask, it'll come. And it's just been one of those things that we've been blessed with, and the talent that walks through the store is really insane. Yeah. And the cool thing about it is, I mean, for me, I really like meeting artists from all over the world. So I do a lot of virtual lessons. Even before the pandemic, I was doing a lot of virtual lessons.
That is cool.
And stuff like that. I think it's important.
Yeah.
And I'm also very specific, and I shouldn't say, I go through a rigorous training process with whoever I bring on board as far as team members go. And everyone that's on our team is actively involved in the music business or has a passion for helping the youth community. And I'm really proud that I think we have like 27 team members now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I'm always meeting new people, for that.
Yeah.
But it's been a really great experience. I've traveling back and forth to Nashville and LA and meeting different writers and producers and managers and artists. It's a really humbling experience, and definitely is what fuels me to continue doing this every day.
I understand that you opened for Lady Gaga
Yes.
at one point.
Yes.
What was that like?
It was cool. Listen, I was doing the whole artist thing myself during
Yeah.
the time when artists were still getting signs to record deals and getting major advances.
Mm-hmm.
And you would still do your showcases for the majors. That still happens nowadays, but definitely not as much as it used to be. Spotify wasn't a thing. It was
Yeah.
really mostly about the live show. And I performed at a lot of prestigious venues. So the Bitter End is one of the places that I performed with her at. She was Stephanie Germanata at the time, which is her birthday.
Ah.
She wasn't, I don't think she came out as Lady Gaga the first show I did with her. The second show I did with her, she came out as Lady Gaga. And I'm going to be honest, it was just one of those things where we were on the same bill. We exchanged a few words after she got off the stage. I said, hey, you're really talented. We exchanged emails and kind of kept in touch for a little while. But the second time that she performed, the first time I felt it, but not as much as the second time. When she came out as Lady Gaga, she had long black hair, underwears on top of her leggings, legs up, playing the piano all crazy. I was like, I have to perform after this. Like, I'm
Yeah.
totally screwed right now. And I remember saying that. It was an energy that I felt. And to
Yeah.
be honest, it was I got an education from it. And I tell this to my young artists now. I say, it's an aura, it's an energy. She
Yeah.
had an energy about her that when you walked in the room, it was instant. It's like, this girl's going to be something. I knew it. I said, this girl's
Right.
going to be something. I think that was probably the first time that I said, I think I might be good at this. I think I'm good at picking up like talent and predicting that they're going to do well,
Yeah.
because I just knew it. I felt it. I don't know if it's because I'm an empath. I don't know what it is, but I'm very connected to humans and people and emotions. And if it's something that really shakes me to the core, and
Yeah.
I also kind of read how other people are responding, I'm very good at picking that up. I'm not always right, but so far it's been happening. So
And
yeah,
you
she's
know that it factor is so elusive anyway that you could it almost takes someone like yourself to pick it up, and other people might be like, there's something about this person, that you can't quite put your finger on, whether it's the je ne sais quoi, or the it factor, but it's something, that elusive quality that it's like you can't really, it doesn't really show forth until like you're on the piano, playing with your underwear on top of you. It's like, okay,
yeah.
Um,
I think that the it factor, though, just to touch on that for a second,
yeah,
I think that the it factor comes from many things. I think that the first thing is allowing yourself to be vulnerable. I keep going back to that vulnerable thing,
yeah,
because that's something that we as human beings have a very hard time doing. So anytime I work with an artist, I say, you need to allow yourself to be vulnerable. You need to tell your story. You need to not be worried about getting criticized. You have to just put yourself out there,
that's
period.
good.
And it's almost like an exaggerated version of yourself, right?
Yeah,
Well, like the Lady Gagas of the world. Listen, I spoke to her. She's extremely wise, but she's a little quirky. That's who she is, though.
sure.
It's exaggerated on stage, because it's part of her show. She has that
Yeah,
very, dramatic thing going on. But truly, the it factor comes from allowing yourself to be vulnerable. And instead of, when you're singing, just singing the song, understand why you're singing it. If you can't relate to it specifically, then find the feeling that song emotes and connects to the feeling. You know, like I have a lot of young artists that really haven't gone through, I'll use heartbreak for an example, since that's a universal theme. They really haven't gone through heartbreak in the way an older, more mature adult will go through. So
Yeah.
they're not connecting in the same way as like you or I would connect, right?
Yeah.
So we'll get a 14 and a 15-year-old artist with an insane voice, and now they're singing a song about heartbreak. And I'll say, listen, in order for you to sing the song and really connect to it, let's think about it for a second. You haven't had your heart ripped to shreds, but you've experienced pain before. You've experienced vulnerability before. You've
Yeah.
experienced sadness before. Think about that feeling and let's try to find it. And we kind of work on peeling the layers and really kind of discovering yourself. And it's an evolution. It constantly changes. Even for myself, it constantly changes. And it is the hardest thing to be able to execute. It really, really is. But once you do it, it's just like people feel it. People get it. They say they have that it factor, but I don't know what it is about them.
Yeah.
It's because they're making you feel connected.
And we should, and can you, is it safe to say that everybody does not have the it factor as far as, you know, some people that have the it factor aren't necessarily stars, as we see stars, you know, but they could be a star in a different arena or an industry, but everybody does not have the it factor. However, would you say it is still important for us? You mentioned it's hard for us to be vulnerable. Why do you think that?
Well, let me answer the first question. So the first question is, definitely not everybody has the it factor. I don't even know. I hate to say that people don't have the potential because I'm a people person. I just always give people the benefit of the doubt and say, you have the potential.
Yeah.
I think that if someone comes in and says they're passionate about music and they don't exactly
Exude.
Right. They don't exactly get it, right? It doesn't click, right?
Yes.
I don't say you shouldn't do music. I say, listen, if you're passionate about music, let's explore all the things you can do about music.
Sure.
You can play an instrument. You can be a music manager. You can be a producer. You can be a backup singer. You can still do those things. I also ask the artist, how big are your dreams and how big can you dream? And I always go by my answer, because if they say, well, I don't know, I just love to sing, I say, okay, well, that's cool. I love to sing too, but that's general. You love to sing, why? Right? And then, we'll go on and this takes a little bit of time, right? A series of questions of kind of just really kind of going through their life story and why they're here. And it gets very personable. So that kind of ties into the vulnerability question is,
Sure.
I believe in making everyone feel like they're at home. The reason why my husband and I created this place is so that artists can come in and feel free to be themselves fully, 100%. I have kids that come in who don't have supportive parents, who get bullied in school, who have friends that tell them these are pipe dreams. I went through it myself as a kid, and I want them to come in. So we usually start by having a conversation, just like you and I, and saying, okay, what if fear wasn't a factor? Because everyone has fear, right? To me, there's only two emotions, fear and love. Vulnerability ties into fear.
Yep.
Happiness turns into love. So what are you afraid of? And then they'll talk about all the things they're afraid of. Okay, what do you love to do? And those are questions that as a human being, you feel stripped, you feel naked, you feel like, oh, I have to tell you this? What?
Yeah.
This is what I have to do in order to be an artist, to work with you, is I have to tell you all of these things. It's like a first date. I compare it to a first date, a second date, and a third date. And it's like if you go on that first date and you really like the other person that you're on that first date with, but then they ask you a question and you're like, not there yet. I'm not ready to answer that question.
Sure.
You want to answer it. You're just not ready to answer it yet. So you go on that second date and then you think about it and you can't sleep at night because you're like, oh, I should have just answered it because it would have taken me one step closer to that person. It's the same process for me.
Sure.
And it's not something that happens overnight. It takes a little bit of time.
Well, that's what you are, a coach. So you see that potential, and it's almost like you don't necessarily start out there's a beginning point, and it sounds like you're mining that person so that there is a connection, so that they know how to tap into it for themselves. You know, just as an actress, when I was given a role to one point in time, I had to play Coretta Scott King. And it's like, whoa. So I had to connect to something, to an experience to cause me to tap into what she felt in that moment. And, you know, for the particular role, and as far as the lines that I had to do, it's like, well, how would I feel? And it's like, well, wait a minute, let me think about loss for myself. So what you're doing is showing them, it sounds like you're showing them how to find that space, so that note, you know, when they hit that note, and I'm not necessarily saying they're a soprano, but when they hit that particular note, it grabs the person listening to it. You know,
100% right.
Because we're so craved for authenticity. You know, we want to see other people inside of other people. We want to relate. It's like, wait a minute, she's going through what I'm going through. Right. And, you know, so because music brings hope. So, right. You know, it's almost wise to tune the instruments, you know, the vessels.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You brought up a good point, Francyne, that I actually talk about, and I'm so glad that you brought it up. Actually, you spoke about an actor and an actress. They have to kind of put themselves in the role and the character of the person. And I'll say to an artist, and this is where it starts to get like the aha moment, right? Where it's like, listen, a lot of you have done school plays, right? These young kids, they've done school plays, or they've had the opportunity to do school plays, or if they didn't do school plays, they're mimicking their favorite characters on TV. You know, I know my son does. He's 2.5, and he's already like trying to do the characters on TV. Naturally, we want to try and emulate others that we aspire to be.
Sure.
But when it's time to actually be yourself, that's what the challenge is. So it's almost like you're not acting, right? Because I can tell if you're acting. We're not acting as, you know, the character in the show. We're being yourself. Mm-hmm. And one of the questions, and I can say this here, is, you know, I do a performance workshop, and one of the questions on the sheet is, what do your peers say about you, and what do you say about yourself? And that question is always astonishing, because I look at it and it's like, I'm nice, I'm kind, I'm giving, and I'm like, those all mean the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm passionate. Okay. And then I go from those things, and it's like people don't even realize really the depth of who they are.
Right. Yeah.
So once that's my favorite part of what I do, is the development aspect of it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I love doing that. So thank you for bringing that up, because I compare it a lot to acting, and it's something that I feel like helps people. It's like something clicks in their brain, like, oh yeah.
Yeah. And when you're performing anyway, you know, it's just from a performer, just from a journalist being on camera, it's like you're on. You over exaggerate. You're not, you know, it's not the same as if I'm on the phone, you know, with the cable company, or I'm going grocery shopping. No, I'm performing in the sense that, yes, I'm on, because there is your private persona and your public persona. 100%. So, you know, your public persona is what you do, and the private is no makeup. You know what I mean?
I know.
No big hair.
Yeah.
And just.
Also, I'm sure your hair always looks that way.
Thank you. The big sweat, just the comfy sweats or whatever, you know, Netflix and chilling. So you, it's good that you do that with your students, because knowing how to, first of all, tap in and then tap out, you know, so that you don't burn out.
Right.
because there are so many different, because sometimes it's like you got to get into a zone
Right.
to do what you do. So
Right.
talk a little bit about, so you have mainly those that aspire to be singers, more or less, or the other aspects of the music profession. Do you have anyone that, or do you have clients or students that tap into the, I want to say tap into, do you have clients that take vocal lessons? I mean, it's almost a great thing. I would look at vocal lessons for myself as beneficial. Do you have people that are maybe just professionals and just really want to work on their vocals?
Yeah. So I mean, ET Studio Productions is an audition-based company. And what I mean by audition-based company, it doesn't mean that you're either in or you're out. It means that they come in, they sing, and depending on what their goals are, how big their dreams are, and where they are in their, in their journey, they will then get placed with the right teacher. So
Okay.
I have beginners, I have intermediate, I have advanced. I teach mostly the advanced and the artist development. That's mostly what I'm focusing on. But
Right.
I have a lot of beginners. I have a lot of kids that still just don't know. They're very young. Our youngest is 5. Our oldest is, I had a 60-year-old once, but for the most part, like 30, 35.
Yeah.
But 5 is the youngest. And they come in, and a lot of the times the parents are like, they love to sing. Let's just do it. And it's nice to kind of cultivate talent from a very young age too.
It is. It really is. Now, when they're 30 to 35, are they still thinking about aspiring to be a vocalist,
Like a star?
a star, a profession, which is, it's not too late,
It depends. And the
Yeah.
answer to that question I always say is it depends on the style of music that you want to do as well. Country music is a bit more forgiving. You can kind of be any age, obviously adult, contemporary.
Yeah.
But as far as being a pop star, my opinion about being a pop star has changed a lot over the years. A lot.
Why is that, Laura?
Because I think that being a pop star is, I guess the way that I want to say it is, being a pop star, I think sometimes is for the wrong reasons. And I always say that let's not put a definition on this, right? They'll come in and I'll say, what are you passionate about? And they'll say, I'm passionate about singing. And I'll say, okay, if you stick to your passion is ultimately going to lead you to what you're destined to do. I'm a star, but I'm not a star worldwide, but I'm a star because people here are, they come to me and I'm able to mentor them and inspire and be inspired. So I'm still getting the same feeling by doing what I'm doing every day. I still get the same feeling by doing this than I would being on stage singing in front of 20,000 people. The only difference is that I'm able to walk to the supermarket, not have paparazzi follow me, and not have to totally mask up my son.
Yeah.
So I think it just depends, right? I think that stardom is not for everyone. I think that people just think, I want to be a star because I want to be financially secure. I want to be able to buy whatever I want. And anytime I hear an answer like that, I'm always like, I got to put the brakes on this for a second, my friend. And listen, if it happens, it happens. Like, great. And I'm not saying we're not going to reach for the stars, but to me, reaching for the stars means a lot of different things for different people. I think just make great music, tell your story, speak your truth, and eventually you will be where you are meant to be, period.
Yeah. I listened to this motivational tape, The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. And he says, success is doing what you're doing. It's doing that thing. You can be successful raising your children. Because that's what you've chosen to do. You can be a successful teacher because that's what you've chosen to do and you want to do it and you're successful. I think we get kind of, we will be successful when we reach this pinnacle of doing. And it's like, no, I'm a star. I'm a star right now, wherever I go. You know what I mean? At least that's in my head. So it's like, no, I mean, I think it just really depends. And that's what you have to you have that attitude almost where you're doing what you're doing. You love it. Like I love what I do. And I love what I do right now, sitting right here, even, you know what I mean? Even if it's free, because I love meeting new people. I love having the conversation. I love being able to facilitate somebody's story. That's my tagline. You got a fascinating story and it needs to be heard. Let's talk. So I get it. And I think it probably occurs when, we're younger and, then maybe we're not so young. And it's like, well, think about it. So then I like when you talked about the touchstones in the profession. It's like, well, maybe maybe you want to sing and maybe you don't. Maybe you want to be, because we need everybody.
Right.
We need engineers, I need a producer, right now. But we need a team. And I already said to myself, I said, Lord, I pray for my supportive and trustworthy team that's coming down the pike. So we need the audio mixers. We need the sound engineers. We need the instrument players and the singers. We need all of that to make this beautiful production. So it's not like, so those are touchstones. It's like, well, maybe I thought I wanted to sing, but then I'm really discovered that I'm pretty technical.
Yeah.
And I like doing the soundboard,
Right.
which we need,
Right.
So, how can one get in touch with you? You're based out of Brooklyn, correct? Is it Brooklyn? Staten Island. Yes, you're from Brooklyn.
Bronx.
The Bronx.
It's okay.
Wrong borough. I keep going. It's like, I'm sorry. You know what? I'm thinking Brooklyn because my son was just there last week. So it's like Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens. Okay. Gotta
get all the same.
Right.
Yeah. Staten Island's different though. No, it's not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes. Sure. But how can one get in touch with you? I know we had the one picture, the studio. We had a studio picture that we wanted to highlight. Is this the studio currently?
Yeah, this is a picture of the vocal booth right now. We don't have any pictures of the stage, but you can see more pictures of the studio at etstudioproductions.com. And you can kind of scroll through there to learn more about what we do. And there's a contact button, so we love hearing from anyone.
Okay.
You can contact us there and see more photos on there.
Well, we don't want to hold you. I know you've got another engagement pending. Any final thoughts you want to add, Laura, before we hang up?
No, I think that basically covered everything. ET Labz is just a new company that we didn't really talk about much, but
let's talk about that real quick then.
Yeah. I have a couple minutes. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
ET Labz is an integrative learning company that is a sister company to ET Studio Productions. Along the way, I've met a lot of creative people and a lot of passionate young adults that are looking for kind of what they want to do with their life and also have passions that they don't know what to do with. And I am someone that likes to light people's passions on fire. So if somebody comes to me and says, I love art and they're really great at it and they're undiscovered, I automatically am like, hold on a second, let's figure out a way to make this happen. So it is an integrative learning company with specific focus on working with children with special needs. I've always had a passion for helping children with special needs, and I feel like there's not a lot of opportunities for them to discover and create and learn new things. So we started ET Labz, and it is a creative company that's mostly, for fun and hobby, where we do art classes, yoga, meditation, because we have to clear our minds in order to be creative. We have this fun dance and exercise class. We do have music classes. We have art class, science class, and we keep adding new classes, leadership classes.
Yeah.
And I have a great team of teachers. So that's a brand new company and a brand new facility that we opened up right before the pandemic. And by the grace of God, we were able to continue to stay open. Don't know how, but we did. And we're really excited about it and making a difference in the youth community there. So that's etlabz with a Z.com. You guys can check us out.
etlabz with a Z.com. And so you were able to pivot through this year-long pandemic, and I'm being facetious, but you were able to pivot successfully because you was it because you were exercising social distancing? How were you able to pivot and go through and, get through this?
I think because I had a virtual business before this for ET
Yeah.
Studio Productions. I mean, we lost probably half of our clientele during that time, but thankfully
Yeah.
we'll kind of come back. Like I said, music is healing to a lot of people. And I think that
Yeah.
during quarantine, a lot of people wanted to songwrite about what they were feeling and sing
Yeah.
what they were feeling. So I was able to maintain it by doing some virtual lessons with my existing clientele. And then once we had the go to kind of open up, now we follow all the safety precautions and all the guidelines, and don't have anybody in our waiting room. And I wear the face shield when I teach. ET Labz,
Yeah.
unfortunately, was on hold because it is integrated and it was a brand new company, so we didn't really get to push it the way we needed to. But a child with special needs has a hard time. I'd say probably more than half of the time doing the virtual stuff. And plus the kids were getting tired of doing virtual lessons. They wanted to come in person.
Yeah.
Which is really the most effective way of learning. I mean, that's a whole other conversation, but we were able to kind of stay afloat, thank God, and finish our construction during that time because it was just the building, and we did it. So here we are.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad we finally were able to have a conversation and, just hear your story, hear the success, and the aspiring success of ET Studio Productions and ET Labz. It sounds like, you've got some great programs in store, especially for special needs children. All children, are children, and they should have an outlet to be children, So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Just a great, I had no idea. And this all came about as a result of me interviewing one of your students, Brina Torch.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that, something else I love about what I do is meeting amazing people doing just great things. It's not just, we're all celebrities,
Right.
And we should be celebrated. It's just somebody else may be doing something totally different, but it's like, it doesn't mean we shouldn't be celebrated. So I appreciate you coming on the show to talk about everything that you've got going on and to hear your story. And please have a wonderful weekend. And you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
And good luck to you guys.
You too. You too. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys for tuning in to Life and Style with Francyne. What an amazing story. Just a great, great woman and a great mission and company. Of course, that concludes this edition of Life and Style with Francyne. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, drop us a line at lifeandstylewithfrancine@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, Francyne Walker TV. You can like my Facebook page, Life and Style with Francyne. And you can also like and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Francyne Walker. And we will talk to you soon. Have a great